Pelias was the ruler of Iolcus, but he was a very nervous king, for he had been warned by an oracle that a relative would steal his throne. The prophetess had told him, "The man who will challenge you will arrive on your doorstep wearing only one sandal." From that day on, Pelias had been on high alert, and he studied everyone's feet. Then one day Pelias's nephew Jason returned from a long journey. On his way to the palace, Jason had fallen as he crossed a river and lost a sandal. When Pelias looked at Jason's feet, he became struck with fear. He came up with a plan to get rid of Jason. "My dear nephew," he said, "there is a sheep's fleece made of pure gold that belongs to King Aeetes of Colchis. I want it. Will you go and get it for me?" Now Jason was an adventurer at heart, and he agreed at once to go. What Jason did not know was that this was a very dangerous journey. Pelias had chosen this mission specifically because he believed there was no chance of Jason or his men surviving. Jason gathered an impressive crew, including the mighty Heracles, son of Zeus, and the famed musician Orpheus. Together they set sail in a sturdy ship called the Argo, and they headed for Colchis. On their voyage they stopped in the kingdom of Thrace. This was the home of the prophet Phineas. He had once been a great ruler, but he had angered Zeus when he shared too much of the future with his people. As a punishment, Zeus took away his sight, and he sent terrible monsters called Harpies to continually torment him. Each Harpy had the head of a woman but the body of a bird. They circled him constantly, and whenever he tried to eat, they would swoop down and steal the food right from his hands. When Jason and his men came across the blind prophet, they took pity on him. Two of the crew waited for Phineas to start his meal, and when the Harpies flew down to steal it, they ran at them with their swords drawn. The monsters were scared off, and they didn't come back. To show his gratitude, Phineas shared with the men the fastest route to Colchis. Phineas directed Jason to the Symplegades. These were two cliffs bordering a narrow channel of water. It was the shortcut to Colchis, but there was a problem. Whenever a ship tried to pass, the cliffs would crash together and crush the vessel to splinters. Luckily, Phineas knew the secret on how to sail through safely, which he shared with Jason. As the Argo approached the channel, Jason let a dove loose. The dove entered the channel, and the cliffs began to rumble. But the bird flew so fast that by the time the cliffs crashed together, the bird was safe. Then the Argonauts quickly rowed the ship through as the cliffs drew back. As they approached the channel's end, the cliffs began to rumble again, and the men raced to the exit. They made it through, but just barely. The cliffs crashed together, and they lost the statue on the stern of the ship. When Jason and his crew finally landed on the coast of Colchis, they went straight to the palace. As soon as they arrived, Jason asked for an audience with the king. Soon he found himself standing in front of the king and his whole family. The mischievous god of love, Eros, was watching, and he decided to have a little fun. Eros made the princess Medea fall madly in love with Jason. She hung on Jason's every word. Jason said to her father, "I have been sent here to ask for the golden fleece. I cannot return home without it. I will do anything you ask of me in exchange for it." At this, Aeetes began laughing nastily. "Fine," he said, rather snidely. "Tomorrow you will have a chance to win the golden fleece. I want you to harness the fire-breathing bulls that I keep. Then you must plow a field outside my palace and sow this bag of dragon's teeth." Jason accepted the challenge, but Medea was worried. Luckily, Medea was no ordinary princess. She also was a witch. It must have run in the family. And she was skilled in magic. That night, she went to find Jason. "I wish to help you, but you must make me a promise. My father will be furious if I help you. You must take me with you and make me your wife." "Of course," said Jason. He was glad to have some assistance. Medea gave Jason a bottle. "Spread this potion on your armor. You will be protected from all harm." The next day, everyone gathered to watch Jason attempt this seemingly impossible task. Protected by Medea's potion, Jason was able to approach the fire-breathing bulls without being burned, harness them, and plow the field. Next, he sprinkled the dragon's teeth on the soil. Suddenly, where the teeth had fallen, soldiers sprang up from the ground. Jason had to think and act quickly. He spotted a rock on the ground and he flung it into the middle of the armed men. It hit one of the soldiers on the back. The soldier spun around, glared at his nearest neighbor, and attacked him. Confused, the next man turned to attack him, and on, and soon there was a huge fight, and Jason was able to cut down the remaining soldiers. Aeetes was furious. "You must have cheated," he said. "If you want the fleece, go get it. It's guarded by a dragon at the end of my kingdom. Let's see you get past that." Medea went with Jason to the cliff where the dragon dwelled. Once again, she had a handy potion. She crept up to the dragon and she sprayed the liquid into its eyes. This put the monster into a deep sleep. Jason sneaked up behind the snoring dragon and grabbed the golden fleece from where it was hanging. Together, he and Medea ran to the shore where his ship was waiting. They boarded the ship and the crew set sail. After many months at sea, Jason and his new wife arrived back in Iolcus. Jason had been gone so long that everyone had assumed he was dead. His parents had died from heartbreak. King Pelias, however, though old and feeble, was very happy because he thought he was safe. When Jason went to give the fleece to Pelias, the king was rather disappointed to see him, but he accepted the fleece gladly. He didn't even mention Jason's parents. Jason was enraged. He went to his wife, and together they hatched a plot for revenge. Even so far from home, Medea's skills as a witch were quite well known, and she used this to her advantage. She went to Pelias's daughters. "I can teach you a spell to make your father young again," she promised. "How?" the girls asked. "It's very simple. You must cut your father into tiny pieces and then boil him in water." The princesses were a little unsure at first, but Medea demonstrated her spell by cutting up a ram and turning it into a lamb. Not very bright, they were convinced. Pelias's daughters were not witches, however, and when they attempted the spell, their father did not come back to life. With Pelias dead, his son Acastus succeeded him on the throne. His first decision as king was to banish Jason and Medea from the kingdom, so the couple traveled to Corinth. There they had 2 sons. Still, as years went by, Jason dreamed of returning to Iolcus. Then Jason learned that one of the other Argonauts, Pelias, was planning to attack Acastus. Jason rushed to join him in the fight. Acastus was easily defeated, and for his help Jason became ruler of Iolcus. The prophecy that his uncle Pelias had feared had finally come true.